हेलो एंड अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन, वेलकम टू द न्यूरमबर्ग सिटी ऑफ जर्मनी। में से बहुत सारे लोगों ने गेम ऑफ थ्रोन सीरीज देखा होगा, जब पुराने जमाने की फिल्में जिसमें तकरीबन 11वीं या 13वीं सदी की जेल दिखाई जाती है। तो न्यूरमबर्ग के अंदर एक है बहुत ही पुरानी जेल जो 13वीं सदी की है। तो हम चलते हैं उस जेल के अंदर और उसका विजिट करते हैं। उसके लिए हमने एक टूर गाइड हायर की है और अंदर जाने की जो फीस है और टूर गाइड की जो फीस है वो 20 यूरो है। तो चलते हैं जेल के अंदर उसको एक्सप्लोर करते हैं। तो लेट्स गो। अगर आपने अभी तक सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज डोंट फॉरगेट टू सब्सक्राइब।
This building looks old, but it isn't really old. It's a copy of an old building which was destroyed by bombs in World War II. And it's reconstructed exactly like it was before. The basement here wasn't destroyed. So this is original. And that's where the prison was started in 1340. And this was a special prison. These people brought into this prison were accused of serious crimes. A man who had stolen bread at the market square wasn't brought into this prison. He was whipped right there and then sent back home. Bad violence cases, rape, murder, or big fraud cases. These people accused of such crimes, they were brought into this prison. These people couldn't take a lawyer to get support. They had to defend themselves on their own in front of the judges. Who were the judges here in Nuremberg? Well, normally in the medieval German Empire, there were noblemen governing a county, and they were big judge in their county. But Nuremberg was a so-called free city in the medieval German Empire. That means there was no nobleman governing the city. The emperor was the official head, and he gave permission to some rich businessmen running big trade companies to govern the city on their own. And some of these councillors of the city, they were judges or jurymen, and they had to make the decisions about the verdicts. In the 1300s and also in the 14, 15, 1600s, they didn't have law books like we have today. But in the 1200s, in some regions, also here in Nuremberg, they started to write down which punishment has to follow which crime. But this was more or less like a suggestion. Yeah, these judges could make their decisions on their own. We will take a look at one of these cells in a minute. And that's where they had to wait for, normally for 4 or 5 days, and then the trial was started. This well, it's very old. It was for drinking water supply. It was dark into the groundwater. You can see some water in there today. In the 1580s, one prisoner made it to escape from here via this tunnel. The only one in nearly 500 years. Bed is over there. The wooden paneling that was protection from cold or heat in summer. In here, in winter times, they used to have a piece of gleaming coal. That was the heating system. They had a bucket, a wooden bucket here. That was the toilet. And a board put on that bucket. That was the table where they had to eat from all in one. So sometimes there was a bad smell coming up and you had to eat. There was a door closed here. And in here, it was dark. And they had to wait for 4 or 5 days in the darkness. Every bigger city in the Middle Ages, they had their executioner. Who became an executioner? The son of the executioner. In those days, people had no choice. The son of a baker became a baker. The son of a carpenter became a carpenter. The son of a king became a king, and the son of an executioner became an executioner. Here in Nuremberg, we had an executioner. His name was Franz Schmidt. He was in charge for 40 years, from 1577 until 1617. For 40 years. And this man wrote a diary. He wrote down everything he had to deal with during these 40 years. We still have this diary, and this is a very good source for information. The trials were run. And now I will walk you into that room. Yeah, in here and in the room above, that's where the trials were run. These rooms are connected by shafts. There's a shaft here, and behind these holes, there are 2 more shafts connecting this room to the room above. So these people up there, people down here, they could communicate. Upstairs, that's where the judge, 2 jurymen and a writer were seated. In here, the defendants, the executioner, and his assistant. Judge, the juryman, the writer, they didn't want to see what was going on, but they could hear. At the very beginning, the judges used to read the charges. You are accused of murder or whatever. And then these defendants were asked, do you plead for guilty or not guilty? When the defendants said, no, I'm not guilty, and they could tell them some very good arguments in order to prove that they are not guilty, maybe the judge would think, okay, let's check this And then he decided, okay, we'll meet again in 4 or 5 days. And then the defendant was brought back into the cell. If these defendants said, no, I'm not guilty, and the judges were not convinced, then they would say to the executioner, now it's your turn. By the way, men or women were treated in the same way, no difference. They were shackled to the upper end, the level with their hands, and the feet were attached to a rope which could be stretched. So they were stretched and stretched and stretched. This can be very painful. They still say, no, I'm not guilty. Number 3 was carried out, and this was always normally the last one. This rope let down, and then the hands were shackled behind their backs, attached to the rope. Feet were attached to this massive stone block, and then they were lifted up this way. A massive stone block attached to their feet. When you are lifted up this way, this will dislocate your shoulders. It's very, very painful. Earlier or later, everybody confessed. People brought into this room, they had no more chance. And then we go this way, and 30 minutes later we will be back here again. And then we go this way, and this will be run for the rest of all days. Welcome to hell. No, don't worry, I will try to find another route. Please follow me if you dare. In 1871, museum about the Middle Ages was started in the castle, and the people running the museum, they wanted all people to know the Middle Ages. That was a very dark, sinister period, and they wanted the visitors of the museum to get this special shower here. Yeah, so that's why all these things were made. They were made to be put on display in the museum. So these things were never ever used as torture instruments. And in here, these people sentenced to death got their last meal before they were executed. And the last meal always was a very, very good one. A lot of meat, fruits, vegetables, a little bit of wine. It was sort of mercy they gave to these people. Hours before the execution was planned to be carried out, the assistant of the executioner went through the town with the drum. He made a lot of noise and pronounced, "Today there's an execution. Come and watch the execution. Be at the town hall at 6 when the sun is on the west." Executions were public events, and they wanted all people to watch this. They wanted parents to bring their small kids along, to put them on the shoulder, to make them see much better what happens to you if you commit a crime. Yeah, they should learn this very early.
फिर जेल से निकलने के बाद ऐसा लग रहा है कि आप वापस तो अपनी दुनिया के अंदर आ गए। बहरहाल आई होप आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आई होगी। तो इस वीडियो को यहाँ पर एंड करते हैं। तो नेक्स्ट वीडियो को हम यहाँ से कंटिन्यू करेंगे और न्यूरम्बर्ग सिटी को मजीद एक्सप्लोर करते हैं। तो जब तक बाय एंड अल्लाह हाफिज।